Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 101 of the In From Japan podcast, the podcast where we talk about the latest news on Japan-developed games and other things in relation to them. I actually have to change that motto.
We don't have to just yet. Just give it some time.
I'm your host, Errol Moss, and with me, as always, is my co-host, the phenomenon from Suriname, Jason Corder.
Hey.
And, this is going to be a little different since we're not going to do any news on this podcast because we're changing the format. So we're changing the format so that we're either talking about a big Japanese game release of the last month or a big news story.
Mm-hmm.
So you can look forward to stuff like Pokemon Legends Arceus, Elden Ring. March has quite a few releases, so I don't know if we're going to do just like a Square Enix blowout or what. Because they have 3 releases in March, or 4. They have 4 releases in March, but I don't think either of us are going to be playing Babylon's Fall. So,
I mean, I might dip my toes into it, or just refer to whatever review drops around that time.
but yeah, there's stuff to look forward to, and then whatever news comes out. So we're changing from a weekly podcast to a monthly or bi-monthly podcast, just because we both have other jobs that keep us busy, and it can be hard to do a podcast every week, and then just life stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just wanted to clear that up for any confused audience. So the usual sections are going to be kind of changed around a bit. I'll still try to have some recommended content here and there that connects to the relevant topics.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, this is going to be about our top 5 each of our top 5 games of the year of 2021. And yes, it is a month into 2022, but
better late than never.
Well, not just that, but we like to take a little bit of time. We like to take a little bit of an extended break since we don't have to rush like we know a lot of our colleagues do to get their game of the years out before the end of the year.
Yeah. I mean,
and we each did 5 because if we each did 10, that would be a lot. And so
it also helps to just not be in the same swing as things as everyone else, as you mentioned, because there is this pressure to keep up with the Joneses, to have this backlog finished before the year ends or when the year starts. And yeah, this just affords us enough time to do things. And as you mentioned, we have pretty busy lives, so we have to fit in some game time wherever and whenever we can.
All right, so we're going to start with our honorable mentions, and I only have 1, and Jason has 4.
I'm sorry. Okay.
So, how do you want to? I've played 2 of the things on your honorable mentions list.
Okay.
So I don't know how.
Let's start with yours because that's just the one, and I can just quickly go through mine.
All right.
And you can chime in.
So
whatever.
All right. So my honorable mention is Monster Rancher 1+2 DX because it's an enhanced port. They added a bunch of quality of life features and new monsters. I actually still haven't finished Monster Rancher 1 quite yet, and I promised myself I'd finish the first one before going to 2. So it's a bit difficult to manage, but it's fun, and I had been playing it back in December. I had been playing it for hours, before, without getting bored of it, even though it was a lot of the same gameplay loop. And then you kind of have to manage and make sure your monster doesn't die before it gets to the rank. And there are different things you have to keep track of, certain types of training will do this, and certain items will certain things will expand its lifespan, and other certain things will decrease its lifespan, and you just have to kind of balance it the right way.
So, would you say Monster Rancher is quite literally quote unquote farming these critters? in the sense that
well, you only have one at a time.
Yeah, but in the sense that you have to take care of them as you
Right.
would in a.
You have to actually manage certain things.
Yeah, it's not so much about the adventure as with say Digimon or Pokemon, but more like a life sim, Tamagotchi.
Like there are, it's much more like a Tamagotchi type thing. They don't poop though.
Thank the Lord.
You do get to like explore some ruins, and you can get certain items that way to unlock, which help unlock specific monsters.
Okay.
That's just like every once in a while. And that's like an optional thing you can do. You don't have to go on those excursions. It's the guy comes, he asks you, and if you don't want to, or there's like a reason that you think it would be a bad idea, and you don't have to go.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a pretty impressive port. I'm hoping that in the future it means we can get ports of Monster Rancher 3, 4, and Evo, and maybe even a brand new Monster Rancher game. But we'll have to see.
Okay.
That's up to Koei Tecmo.
Yeah. Do you think there's a good chance of this?
I don't know I wish I knew like the sales. No, I guess we could find out if Koei Tecmo releases like their financial stuff. Yeah, I guess we could find out, but there's still no guarantee about that.
So, in a hypothetical situation where we would be getting Monster Rancher,
I've made that mistake too. Don't even.
What would you want to have in that game?
Well, so they already kind of hinted at what they could do in a modern Monster Rancher game with some of the quality of life additions in the port. Because remember, this port, it doesn't just have a CD database. It's like CDs, video games, and even some stuff on the Nintendo Switch eShop.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I'm like, okay, so they could potentially either use the eShop to unlock different monsters, and I don't know if there's a way they could fix it to tweak it to do it just to the digital games people have. That would, or like the data on it would make it a little more limiting than the actual database, but maybe they could do it in a way that it's like, okay, the save data that you have for each game, it reads that, and then the save data of those different games can unlock different monsters, and then in post games you can get a whole list which is how the database, more similar to how the current database works.
It could also like coincide with the games you have on your Switch or whatever library you have, and then that kind of
well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So, but I don't know if that would mean just Koei Tecmo games or games where Koei Tecmo has partnerships with.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because Monster Rancher 1+2 has like, they have all these different games. It's not just Koei Tecmo. They have like all these different games listed. A bunch of older games that were on PS2. Like there was like a couple Batman games.
Yeah, that I know. But those
just some random
stuff.
But
those licenses would, I think that's Dark Tomorrow, but those licenses would have expired by now, right?
Well, there was Return of the Joker by Ubisoft on there.
Ah, that's interesting.
Yeah, so I don't know how they did that. Unless it might have already been in the game's files, and then they just kind of tweaked it. It might have been that kind of a thing.
Yeah, but still, you'd have to redo the licensing stuff, which is weird. But okay, I digress.
Well, if it's just the name, would it have to? It's just the name of the game?
Would, I think. Yeah. Oh well.
I don't know.
Oh well.
It's a weird thing, but yeah, I'm hoping we can get more ports and a new one at some point.
Yeah.
All right, on to your honorable mentions.
Okay, my honorable mentions. I don't want to go into deep with them because we have a lot more to talk about.
Right.
So first up, as my honorable mention, is P5 Strikers, Persona 5 Strikers. I just started this game recently. I didn't really have all that much time to dedicate to this, but a funny thing happened. I was trying to go to my library. I was mid-mission, the first one. I was trying to go to the library on my PS5, but I accidentally started up Red Dead Redemption 2. So,
oops.
I think I just wiped all my progress. And that's just so disheartening, so I haven't touched it since then.
Arthur, I didn't have a plan.
Yeah, I definitely didn't have a plan for this one. So that just goes to show you how much quick resume is such a gold standard now. But yeah, it's whatever. P5 Strikers itself, the game is very fun, very intense. I mean, controls wise, because you have to pay attention to a lot of stuff, which kind of took me by surprise because I was really going into it with the mindset of, oh, it's a Muso game, I'll be fine. And then I started it up and was like, oh no, I am not fine. There are a lot of tutorials. Which kind of takes you out of the action because mid-attack, you have a pop-up text that says,
right,
do this, and then you get this. And I'm like, okay, I'll get to it one of these days. Calm down. Which, yeah, that kind of really hurts the flow. I'd rather have like a dedicated tutorial section and then it lets you loose, or you go through the game trying to figure out whatever you can, and then the game says, okay, now we're going to go through this step by step so you don't mess up. But there's a lot to take into consideration, the type weaknesses, the characters you have in your party, baton passes, all out attacks, the whole shebang. So far the game doesn't feel as urgent as Persona 5's proper. It kind of feels quite in tune with how the game is presenting itself. Like they are on vacation, so it kind of has this very easy breezy vibe to it, which I kind of like because saving the world can be very taxing, and you don't want to think, oh no, next week the world's ending. So yeah, this is kind of like a fun distraction for now.
I just could not get into Strikers. Like, I was trying to, and I was liking it initially. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. But then after the first dungeon, and then like doing a bunch of back and forth with the second, and then having to go back to the first dungeon for a specific thing, and I'm just like, I'm not feeling this loop.
Is there something that you were expecting instead of this?
I no, that's the thing. I don't know what I was expecting. Okay. I think it's just like I'm not that into the Persona 5 story and world as much as I thought I was. Like, I think I was more just about the first game, and then like I was good with that.
Okay. I mean, understandable.
I didn't need to see these characters. Like, these characters are cool, but I didn't feel the need to, like, see them again or see what else they were up to, or any of the stuff that I see bigger Persona 5 fans usually say.
The thing usually with the mainline Persona games is they're very complete in their storytelling. Like, you have a beginning, middle, end, and the end is quite final in some sense, where you say your goodbyes and you kind of think fondly back on the memories you've made with your friends and whatnot.
Right.
So I get the sensation of it feeling kind of a bit off when you have to revisit these characters, but so far I'm enjoying it. Okay, on to the next one. My next honorable mention is Metroid Red. And why is this an honorable mention? I did not play that one. Okay, it's fine. It's a good game, though. So why is this an honorable mention? Because by my estimation, it was in the majority developed in Spain by Mercury Steam instead of Japan. Not that that's been quite that different from Metroid because Retro Studios is
No.
in Texas, in the United States, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, so it's kind of a weird thing to have to mention as a game of the year when it's not mostly been developed by Japan. But besides that, it's a very good game. It's very tight, very moody. Samus is quite the badass, and even with her being a badass, you have these moments where she emotes, and it takes you aback because she's in her full gear. You don't see her face, but she still emotes so well, and you can read through her body language what she's feeling, and it's such a nice thing to see. And there are so many tiny details and sequence breaks and the thrill of just going through an alien planet with your weapons. It's such a good game. It's probably the closest I've come to rage quitting and throwing my Switch across the room, but Switches are expensive, so I'm not throwing it across the room. But yeah, it's a very, very good game. Highly recommend it. Next up, Scarlet Nexus, which you have played, if I'm not mistaken.
So, Scarlet Nexus.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't like, I was like, this is cool, but like, it didn't feel, and that's kind of the problem is comparisons. Sometimes comparing certain games to separate games can be kind of unfair, but like, it didn't feel as smooth to me as like a Platinum game would, like for a stylish action type. I mean, it leans more towards action RPG than stylish action, but by the end of it, once you got all the powers, I was like, okay, this is what I wanted, because then you could just like mix stuff around. Yeah. And I was like, this is what I kind of wanted more of.
I kind of agree, and I think playing the demo kind of skewed expectations a bit because you have a lot more powers unlocked in the demo than at the beginning of the main game or the full game, and the ramp up or the climb up to getting all those powers is quite steep. It kind of drags a bit, and I don't think it's all that well balanced, because when you're fighting an enemy and you don't have your brain gauge up, then you can't attack them because some of them like teleport or are too quick or use some kind of attack that you can't defend against, and unless you have your powers at all times, you can't do anything. And it kind of feels punishing for reasons that it shouldn't be, but it could also be that it just doesn't gel quite that well with me as it does with other people. And I like the concept of all these powers and then combining all these powers to make some exciting gameplay. I'm also quite a fan of, I think it's Act 2 where they just go on with the plot twist and fully commit to that. It's like, okay, you are not playing around.
People from the moon.
I'm less enthused about the actual plot twist than there being a plot twist because the story is just gibberish, in my opinion. It's nonsensical, and then you introduce a time loop. Spoilers, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, it's not really a spoiler if I say it's a time loop.
This is a Game of the Year discussion. There are going to be spoilers. Whatever.
You've had your time.
Yeah.
There's a time loop, and then it's just stops making sense because if you think too hard about these things, it starts to unravel, and I dislike when that happens.
The one character went back in time and was the person who saved the other character, but she didn't realize or act like that for some whatever reason.
That's par for the course when it comes to time travel. But for me, it's more like, this is nonsensical. And you introduce a character late in the game who appears to be someone else, but what are those implications? Do you explain those implications? Because no, you don't. And I also think there are too many factions that are on opposite sides that don't have to be on opposite sides, because the game introduces, I think, 3 or 4 factions, and 2 of them are so similar. And so similar in motivation, and so similar in the way they dress, because they're... Spoilers again. It's just the same group that splits up into 2, and they dress the same. They have the same code names and titles. And then you're like, wait, who am I fighting against? And then at certain points you go to visit those locations, and then no one is pursuing you because you're not an enemy of the state.
Oh yeah, that was weird. That was the other thing that took me out of it. It's like, oh no, these people are like, we're getting pursued by these people now. Okay, better go back to base. I'm like, no, isn't that? Wait, but you can't. No, they're not pursuing you very hard then.
Yeah, that surprised me, because Yuito and Kasane both have their bases, their secret bases, but those bases aren't really secret if you're the government.
It's not like when other games have done it.
Yeah,
it's like when that happens, there's an alternative place that's set up that has all the same functions, but it's just a different area. But they didn't do that for this.
It's like you're hiding from the secret police. This doesn't make any sense. They should find you within a week. But yeah, it's so silly, and I do like the bond system where you talk with your fellow teammates and kind of get to know them better. There are quite some shining moments within that. So I think they should lean into that more and just have a more straightforward plot. I'm not saying go easy on us, but do straightforward. Don't complicate it or overcomplicate it with time travel and loops and characters being other characters that don't make sense if you think 5 minutes about it. It's just and I'll mention this point when we get to my top 5 games of the year. But yeah, that's Scarlet Nexus. And my final honorable mention is The House in Fatah Morgana, which is
that how it's pronounced?
Yes.
I always thought it was Fata Morgana. I don't know why. I just never heard it said. It's one of those things where I've read it, but I've never heard anybody say it.
I think it's Latin. Let me look it up.
Okay.
I'll look Morgana. It's Italian for mirage. So I'm not too far off from Latin. It's the Italian term Fata Morgana translates the name of the Arthurian sorceress Morgan Le Fay or Morgan the Fairy. So there you go. Yeah, it's a visual novel that's very striking, very gripping, very dark. Not all that much gameplay to be found, with some choices here and there. I haven't really played that much. I think I'm in the 2nd or 3rd chapter of the story, but it twists and turns and folds on top of itself to make something that's very, very unique. And I mean, gripping does not even begin to describe this game. It's very good. And it's in my honorable mentions because Erroll has a rule that we don't put remakes or ports in our games of the year mentions.
Oh no, we can put we can put remakes as remasters or ports.
Oh, okay, remasters or ports then. So it's on the Switch. It's the full edition with all the DLC. So I'm guessing I'll have quite the time with this game when I finally get my hands on it again. It's very, very good. I cannot stress enough how good it is. But be aware there are some trigger warnings, like murder. I do not know about rape. I'm sorry. There's incest. There is other dark themes. So if you're squeamish or can't handle these things, do not try tread closer. Just read a synopsis or something. But if you're inclined to experience something that's out of the regular wheelhouse for video games, try The House in Fatah Morgana, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Yeah, that's my honorable mentions. I think we can go ahead with your top 5 games of the year.
Okay, so we're gonna start from 5 down to 1.
Yeah, because mine are in no particular order.
Yeah, so it works because we both have what my number 5 is on our list. So number 5 is Tales of Arise.
Yay, confetti.
So the reason I put this is because, like, you know I was like sour on it by the end of, not sour on it, but just kind of getting tired of it with all the just all the different story things popping up and
basically the second half of the game.
Yeah, the second half of the game. But again, I had always been interested in Tales games, and playing Tales of Arise got me more interested to go back and play some of the other ones that I have, which I had planned on playing anyway. But it's kind of like one of those things where, I want to see what the stories in the other games are like now, so I can kind of compare them. And I want to see, like, if I like any better, or like how the series has evolved since those ones. Kind of like how it's similar to how Dragon Quest XI made me feel, although Dragon Quest XI made me feel that like way harder.
No, I get it. I think Dragon Quest is a better, well-rounded game than Tales of Arise.
I think Dragon Quest also just resonates with me more than Tales does. But I liked the characters. Like, I didn't have any problem with any of the characters. I thought the villain, the human villain. Well, I didn't think he wasn't the best villain ever. I didn't think he was bad.
You mean Discount Sephiroth?
Yes. I thought it was pretty interesting. Hoodle is great.
Yes, Hoodle is the best.
And then everybody in the party is cool. Nobody really annoyed me
or stood out.
There's certain things about certain things about classism and kind of like discrimination that it touched upon that I thought was, I mean, it's not groundbreaking or anything, but I thought it was interesting. Just because it's like, well, actually, these, like, the Dawnins and the
Renans.
What was the other one? And the Renans, like, well, actually, the Dawnins are like
something.
Like the Renans are from this planet, actually, this and that. And then I like the sci-fi slant to it that it had by the end.
That's the thing about Tales games. They always have a sci-fi slant to them.
They always do?
Yeah, in some way.
Not always.
In some way.
Always?
Yes. It's not overt, as in you'll have flying ships by the end of the game, but there is a sci-fi slant to these games. Kind of like, how do I explain this properly?
And then it turns into Star Ocean. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes and no. It's a better Star Ocean than the last Star.
Well, yeah, nobody likes that one.
4-star Ocean games ago. But yeah, the thing is, in traditional Western media, when you have fantasy, it's more or less strictly fantasy. You don't have sci-fi popping in at odd moments, but in the Tales series, it's very much in the same.
That's the other reason I just realized the other reason I liked it.
What is it?
It reminded me of that whole thing. It reminded me of She-Ra, because the Netflix show.
Oh, interesting.
Because it always had like a kind of sci-fi element to it, and then by the end, they start exploring a couple other planets.
So it's like, this is definitely my wheelhouse. But yeah, you're not wrong. It kind of turns into Star Ocean by the end of it, which never stops being funny to me. Considering the origins of those two games. But my question to you is, what made this number 5 instead of 1, 2, 3, or 4? Is it that the other games?
Like I said, it's just the grinding and the the side quest feeling remember, I have a whole issue with side quests where like I want side quests to be side quests, stuff that I don't have to do, but I can do if I want to. There's a game that came out recently that I think does it really well.
And that is?
Or not well, but does it the way I want to. We'll talk about it next time.
Okay. Right. But, I know.
Right. Or like how, or like in, or, you know, for example, Skyrim, it's like, okay, you can pick up these quests, but you don't have to immediately do them.
Have you ever played The Witcher Wild Hunt?
I have it. I have not played it yet.
Because that, to me, is the gold standard when it comes to side quests.
Right. I've read Jason Schreier's book and how there was a whole department for making side quests, and I think that is very interesting.
The side quests are legit as good or better than main quests of other games. And the DLC
so I'll have to,
and the DLC pushes that bar even higher.
Yeah, so I'll have to try that at some point. But I was just kind of just forced, like I don't like being forced to do side content.
No, I get it, because in Tales of Arise you have CP that you allocate towards your healing arts, and that dwindles as you use healing arts and you progress through the game. So the way to increase that is to go on side quests and beat powerful bosses, and that can at times feel mandatory to the progress of the main campaign, which isn't always that fun because you just want to sometimes get on with the story, but there's like a big stop sign in front of you saying, oh no, go to this detour, because we didn't know how to pace this game very well, so we're giving you extra 20 hours elsewhere. But my question was going to be, does this do something, or do the other 4 games on your list do something better that made them rise higher? Or is it just the things you already mentioned?
They don't make me do side quests.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so
I have a friend who argues that side quests are more mandatory in modern JRPGs, and I disagree with that because not all JRPGs have mandatory side quests. Anyway,
I'd say that the way Japan and Asia, or like Asia in general, does side quests is very much the old-fashioned way, and in Western developed countries, side quests are kind of like mini D&D campaigns, which can have their own satisfying conclusion, and Japan just hasn't matched up to that standard just quite yet.
I think there are games that do, but that's for another time.
We can have that for a bigger episode.
Yeah. So yeah, Tales of Arise just made it on here.
For me, should I go into why it's on my top 5 of the year?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Because you have more experience with the series than I do.
Yeah, so I think I count Tales of the series as my favorite JRPG series, even above Persona and Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest, which is surprising now that I say it out loud. But yeah, it's because of the whimsical nature of the Tales series, the anime / manga art style, which as a weeb of the early 2000s was all the rage back then. So having a game that was fully cel shaded and giving you quirky characters, lovable mascots, and a main the protagonist that has dual swords, I was all about that. I was all over that. So I have a very storied history with the Tales series. I think I only haven't played the PS2 iterations, but I dabbled in most of the other ones. If I ever could get my hands on them. But yeah, I really love the Tales series. So Tales of Arise, where does that land on my list of Tales games? I'd say it's my number 3. It's below Symphonia and Vesperia. why is it my number 3? Tales of Arise does a lot of things well. It does graphics well. It does... Well, I should talk about the graphics because it is jaw-droppingly gorgeous. Like, every locale, every vista, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I don't know how they managed to pull it off on next-gen and current-gen hardware, but the game is stunning to look at, and you frequently catch yourself, like, stopping 5 minutes just to take it all in. That's how beautiful it is. The music is Motorola Sakuraba's, I think, finest work, next to his Soulsborne output, I think. It's less... It's less Renaissance fair as in like something as Vesperia or Symphonia. It has an extra depth to it, probably because he had access to a full orchestra and choir, and that kind of enhanced the whole feeling of it. The combat was also excellent. Like, it just flows so well. Where at a certain point, I just don't have to think about the buttons I'm pressing. I just feel it out, and that is so satisfying. And it
also, game looks gorgeous.
Yes,
still
game looks gorgeous still. Like,
it's not the most, like, it's, even though it's not like, you know, it's not the most graphically impressive game out there. Just the art style, just like,
I'd say it's up there with graphically impressive.
I kind of like, I wish Pokemon could look like that.
That's a discussion for another time.
Yeah, that's a discussion for the next episode.
Yeah, but yeah, it's so good to look at. And I've nearly 100%ed this game, which is very rare for me to do, but I'm nearly there. I just really love this game, but as you've mentioned, the story kind of falls from a cliff in the second half, because it all builds up nicely throughout the first half with racism, discrimination, slavery, and how that affects different peoples across different lands. But then it just kumbayas it by the end. Like, oh, we're all one species. Like, okay, there's still racism
they're not just
going on.
Yeah, they're not just gonna forget. There was some side stuff that I think dealt with that, but it's like, again, you kind of have to go out of your way to
it's all
get to it.
It's all kind of hand wavy, like, oh, we defeated the bad guy. Slavery has ended. That's no. Have you cracked open a history book? Because that's not how it ever works out. Like,
nope.
Till this day, we still feel the remnants of slavery. It's not just deposing bad actors. It's also dismantling systems and reckoning with that damage. And this game does not reckon with that damage. I think.
Just imagine. I want to see like a Tales of Arise, like a post game, and then they're all they're going around being like, "Hey, so you know, aliens, right?"
Yeah, it's how would that go over? Like, how would the people react to hearing you are no longer slaves, but this is the truth of what happened and what caused it? How would they react? That's a very compelling case and could make for a compelling game. They just did not do that.
Stay tuned for Tales of Arise 2. I don't know.
Yeah.
Dawn of a New...
So it up until where you battle against Volron, like at the...
That's his name.
Yeah, Discount Sephiroth. Up until you battle Discount Sephiroth at the half of the game, the first half of the game, it was a clear runner for my game of the year. And then the second part happened. But what I do love about this game, to bring it back on a positive note, is that when you start the second half of the game, it shifts to a different opening theme. It's anime as all heck. Like, oh, I'm starting the second season now. That's so cool. It's also a very beautiful song, and yeah, it's all wrapped up. It's a good to decent game. It's just that it needed that little bit extra in the story department to elevate it towards something even beyond JRPGs. But it just misses the mark. But yeah, that's my take on Tales of Arise. So you're next.
Okay. So next, new Pokemon Snap. I'm not done with it yet, but it has this like relaxing quality to it, and it's just like I'm always happy when Nintendo lets there be Pokemon spin-off games that aren't just the mainline series. Because it allows to tell. Well, new Pokemon Snap doesn't really have a story per se, but like just it allows for more just expanding the Pokemon world more. You get to see all these different Pokemon, how they interact with each other in nature, and it's
kind of the lo-fi chill beats of Pokemon games.
Yeah, it's the sequel I didn't expect. My one problem with it, and why it's number 4, is it's a bit grindy, which is really weird for a game where you take pictures.
Yeah, very odd choice.
But otherwise, I've really enjoyed it. The way it looks is like it looks so good graphically, and I don't want to say like, oh well, I wish the other Pokemon games look like this, because it's different. Because you're not traveling and battling. You're on an on rails thing taking pictures. So of course it's gonna look better.
Yeah. I have no experience with Pokemon Snap whatsoever. I'm kind of apprehensive of starting with this series or sub-series because one of the other reasons is because like I've replayed Pokemon, like the first Pokemon Snap, like several times. And new Pokemon Snap doesn't have the same replayability factor because of all the grinding, but I feel like it doesn't need to, because there are more areas and more alternate paths in those areas. It's a bigger game, so it doesn't necessarily need the same replay factor. Not that, and even if it didn't have that grinding, it probably still wouldn't have the same replayability as the original. Yeah. But having that said, would you recommend it to other people?
Yeah, especially people who want to try more Pokemon spin-offs, people who enjoyed the first Pokemon Snap, and people who want a more relaxed Pokemon game. Not that like other Pokemon games can't have like a relaxing thing to them, but it's also nice that there's no story to interrupt you like some of the mainline Pokemon games.
Yeah, it's definitely something that looks interesting, and I don't know if it's for me, because I fear I might get bored of it quite quickly. Because just taking pictures, and I don't have the best camera eye-hand coordination. I think I do. I know I don't. so I don't want to tempt fate and kind of get a B or C grade on everything, and kind of have my my self-esteem plummet. But yeah, it does look very cute and relaxing, and I'm happy it's out there. To kind of pivot off of that, if you're done with talking about it, of course.
Yeah.
Okay. To pivot off that, one of my top games of 2021 is Pokemon Shining Pearl.
Ew. No, I'm just kidding.
I will fight you.
I enjoyed my time with Brilliant Diamond, but I was like, it's just Diamond again. That's about it. All right.
Yeah, I get that sense. But for me, I've never played Diamond or Pearl.
Okay, so that makes
that makes sense. This was totally new for me, and I was taken aback by some of the small flourishes. Like, you go into that flower field, and the tiny petals are fluttering around, and the music is playing, and I'm like, yo, this is legitimately good. What? I was led to believe this was a mediocre remake. But no, I was having a lot of fun. It kind of brought me back.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
oh no, go ahead.
Yeah.
Finish
Okay. It kind of brought me back to being 12 years old again and playing Pokemon Red for the first time, and just being in it. Because I think I've easily sunk 50 plus hours into this game, which would make it probably my most played game on the Switch, which is surprising. And I just got lost in it and felt like being a little kid again, and this joy of going about and discovering things and catching Pokemon and just having fun and not really thinking about competitive battling or the story is whatever, but it got me through. It got me through to the end of it, but it's nothing to write home about. And I just, despite all the flaws, I just enjoyed so much of my time with it that it's definitely on my top games of 2021. You were gonna ask?
I was gonna ask. Did you feel like because one of the biggest issues was that, because it was a faithful remake, it didn't change some of the problems the originals had. So finding Geodude and Ponyta everywhere, like in a lot of areas.
I didn't mind because I'm kind of used to it being unbalanced in the early games, or in some of the early games where you have an overwhelming majority of one type or one Pokemon specifically. So I wasn't that bothered. I was kind of surprised that there weren't that many fire types. It's like, okay.
Yeah, the underground fixes that a little because it's revamped.
Yeah. So I was kind of wondering, did I miss a memo or something? Game Freak, what happened?
Or Ilka.
Ilka and Game Freak. But yeah, I had a lot of fun, and this is the first game where I caught shiny Pokemon, like multiples. That has never happened to me before. So,
oh, you caught more than one.
Yeah, I think I have.
What did you get?
I have a shiny Ponyta that turned into a shiny Rapidash, and I think I have a shiny Geodude. I think.
Oh man, do you know about? I know you didn't want Arceus spoilers, but you know about a shiny from that game?
I've heard talk about it. I haven't seen it yet, but
oh, you might be a little disappointed.
Okay,
no. That everybody has the same shiny.
I mean,
because of a quest.
Yeah,
you can get other shinies. I got a shiny Elekid the other day.
I think shinies are such a. I think for the casual people, shinies are such a foreign concept that Game Freak probably wanted to introduce shinies in a main quest,
which is funny because now people are like, well, now we need something rarer than shinies if everybody has
super shiny.
I'll talk more about that when we talk about Legends Arceus.
Yeah. But yeah, that has been my time with Shining Pearl.
That's cool. I did have fun with Brilliant Diamond, but it's like once I was done, I was like, I didn't feel like I need to do the post game or anything. I'm just like, whatever. I've done the post game before. It's not. There's no PAL Park this time. I'm not connecting my Game Boy Advance games to the bottom slot of my Nintendo DS to transfer the Pokemon. So I'm just like, I don't need to do that.
Yeah, it's. I recognize the flaws, and I recognize all the criticisms everyone else has had about the game. But to me, it never factored in all those points. I was just having a lot of fun, and at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Are you having fun? Are you getting a return on your investment? If the answer is yes, great. If the answer is no, maybe drop it and play something else. That's it.
All right, so moving on to the next one. I have Yu-Gi-Oh! Rush Duel Dawn of the Battle Royale. A lot of people miss this one. because it came out in December. It's a digital only release on Switch, and people didn't know it was a different format from the traditional Yu-Gi-Oh format. I actually recently just had an article published for The Gamer. It was 10 differences between Yu-Gi-Oh Rush Duel and Yu-Gi-Oh Master Duel. Because a lot of people who are like a lot of old school players who are going into Master Duel are just getting like overwhelmed by all the new stuff that's been added since they last played. And Rush Duel, Dotto the Battle Royale, I'm just going to call it Rush Duel because that's a long title. But Rush Duel kind of has, and I said it before, it kind of has that essence of classic Yu-Gi-Oh! Because there are fusions. I don't know if they're in the Japanese version of the game, like if they were provided in the update. But it's like you don't have to worry about opponents like summoning a bunch of stuff back and forth from the extra deck. You just have to focus on what's in your main deck, and the only special monsters you have to worry about are legend cards, which are limited to one per deck, and they're just the old school cards like Blue Eyes and Dark Magician and certain signature cards, Pot of Greed.
But
and then the maximum monsters, they are a 3-card monster. So, and you have to maximum summon them, and they take up that player's in all the players' monster zones because there are only 3 monster zones for each player. So you kind of have to balance different things.
So, comparing it to the games that preceded it and the one that just recently released, how are you viewing this one? Is it still your game of the year in comparison to the one that just released and the ones that came before?
Oh no, Master Duel would definitely have it above Rush Duel. But the reason I have, but you know that Master Duel came out this year.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But you know, so the thing with Rush Duel is it reminds me a lot of the old Yu-Gi-Oh! Game Boy Advance games, the Sacred Cards and Reship of Destruction, because you know, you play your own character, but it's still based in the world of the anime, and there's an overworld, and you walk around and buy cards, and then you go find people to duel, and there's a story.
Yeah. So it kind of made you feel like you're living the anime.
Yeah, even though Rush Duel, I don't even think the dub has aired yet. There is a dub, but at the time of release, the dub definitely hadn't aired yet.
Oh, okay.
And then it also has, like, it's a good thing, like, it's a good thing for Duel Links players to move to if they're getting bored of Duel Links. Because it has a lot of the similar aspects, you know, the 3 monster card zones, no main phase 2, the draw phase is different in that instead of drawing 1 card, you draw up to 5.
So
or you draw until you have 5.
It kind of feels to me like advanced Yu-Gi-Oh.
See, you would think that, but it's not. It's the opposite.
Interesting.
I think it's definitely more new player friendly than modern Yu-Gi-Oh is.
I would not guess that.
And my friend was joking, calling it Yu-Gi-Oh for 4-year-olds, and I'm like, most 4-year-olds can't read. I don't.
It's gonna be. I play this cool looking card without context.
But yeah, it's just something I think more people should. The one thing is that it's time of release and being digital only and being Switch exclusive kind of mess it up, but. Again, we don't know if it's going to stay Switch exclusive because the last formerly Switch exclusive Yu-Gi-Oh game, Link Evolution, that came to other platforms later.
Okay,
so I'm hoping.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing the other thing I meant to say with the Duel Links comparison is like they say some of the same exact lines from Duel Links when they do certain things, like I summon a monster.
Oh,
I did.
But isn't that
you can turn that off?
Isn't that from the anime instead of just Duel Links?
Well, the way they do it is the same as in Duel Links.
Okay, I get you.
With like the speech bubble and stuff.
Yeah.
And again, luckily you can turn that on. You don't need that on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a very overlooked Yu-Gi-Oh game that more people should look into, especially people who aren't really feeling Master Duel right now.
Okay. I get you. Okay, so I have a pitch for you. Are you ready?
Okay.
Yu-Gi-Oh NFTs. Is that a yes?
Yes, I'll take one ticket to that place where Jason lives, please.
No, I'm kidding. I do not want you.
Not funny.
I do not want Yu-Gi-Oh NFTs. That would be a disaster.
I mean, Konami already announced they're doing more NFTs, so it's probably just a matter of time.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If
I was like, well, what about fan backlash? Do you think Konami cares about fan backlash?
after all
Do
this
you know
time,
Konami?
okay, I'll pick one of my other top 5 games of 2021.
Never ask me anything like that ever again.
My next mention is a shorter one. It's Final Fantasy VII Remake Intermission. It's the Yuffie DLC, which is just 2 chapters, about 5-ish towards 10 hours if you want to do everything. It's very fun. Hot take, I do not like Yuffie all that much in this game because she feels more like a cartoon character than a hyperactive teenage girl, if that makes any sense. Like, she's almost too cartoonishly energetic that it's distracting. Where she's kind of oblivious to the dangers of the real world, it seems. And it kind of rubs me the wrong way, considering how in the base game everyone feels surprisingly real. Like, I've made mention of it a few times where after playing Final Fantasy VII Remake, it felt like I said goodbye to actual friends. Like, that's how real they felt. And a lot of that's credit to the acting, of course, and the mocap and the animation and everything else. But yeah, Yuffie just doesn't. I needed her to kind of take off her mask and be real for just a beat. Just give me a 5 minutes of not talking like you just came from a Cartoon Network TV show or something. Well, these days Cartoon Network TV shows are more introspective, so whatever. It's gameplay wise very fun. Very how do I say this? Yuffie is a lot more technical than I expected. And then you have that kind of tag team system with Sonon, and it really feels like a very similar but different enough thing. And it was highly enjoyable, and the story goes to some places, and I don't want to spoil them because you really have to see the ending for yourself, because a thing happens that it just breaks everything in terms of its place in the timeline and how we perceive.
Oh, here we go again.
How we perceived the characters and the story, and it's not even on the same scale as the ending of the main game, but they do something, or let me put it in better terms, they commit to the thing they did in the main game.
Yeah, and then Yozora comes out and oh wait, wrong game.
Yeah, no, that's not happening here. But yeah, something similar happens. Let me put it like that. And then you're like at the end of it thinking, okay, but what does this mean? Huh? Guys, what aren't you telling us? And it makes me so excited for whatever's coming up next. And by all accounts, we might get a announcement in the near future, as Kitase from Square Enix has mentioned.
Yeah.
This is also one of their anniversary years. It's the 25th anniversary of Final Fantasy VII, and they have multiple projects in the works. Ever Crisis being one of them, the second season of First Soldier. So I think they might cap it off with a reveal of Part 2, whenever that may be. But yeah, it's a very good game, and highly recommended just for that bonkers ending. You do not know what you're in for. That's all I'll say.
I still have to check it out at some point.
Yeah, they kind of fixed the aerial combat you had problems with.
Yeah, you said you did say that, so I want to check it out for myself at some point.
Yeah.
Eventually. maybe by the end of the year, who knows?
Yeah, just wait till it goes on sale again, and it's just $15 for.
How long was it?
If I rushed through the main story, I could have done it cleanly in 5 hours. But if you want to,
okay. But even with other stuff, even with doing other stuff, that's still pretty short. So yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's like 10 hours. It's
yeah, okay.
It's
that's
very minimal.
Yeah. Next on my list is Super Robot Wars 30. And I want to put a disclaimer that I have not finished this yet, but because it's like a lot of the same, I feel like it doesn't really matter, because even if I had finished the main story, there would still be a bunch of side things to do. Or just getting different units. Just the collecting aspect of getting different units. This is not a Mon game. But it still has that collecting aspect of getting all these different robots from all these different anime series.
So it is a Mon game.
It's not.
I'm just teasing.
The Super Robot Wars, they do have a Mon game spinoff though.
Oh,
for the Game Boy.
I was just joking.
It wasn't very good. It wasn't very good.
Okay.
But they've tried before. But yeah, as I've been getting more into strategy JRPGs because of stuff like Into the Breach in 2018, just strategy games in general, because I was intimidated by them before, but then Into the Breach kind of opened the not opened the floodgates, but like
it opened the breach.
Opened me up to the experience of like, oh, these aren't. I was thinking every strategy game was like XCOM level. I was like, no, XCOM is a different beast. So yeah, Super Robot Wars 30, just knowing some of the anime and then learning about other anime, and it's just cool to learn about new Japanese media while also having old Japanese media that I'm familiar with, and then having them all just cross over and getting to play around with them. And it's almost like that feeling of it's a similar feeling to getting a bunch of, when you were a kid, getting a bunch of action figures and having them fight each other, like, except for you're not usually all your action figures are usually fighting some random grunts or aliens. Sometimes they fight each other, but usually they're teaming up against something else. But yeah, it just conveys that feeling. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So,
and then it's very nostalgic. Plus, like with all the it has all that anime music in it.
So does this make you a Super Robot Wars stan, or is this something?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm so glad this got a
wider release,
worldwide release. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
But and it makes me want to go back and play some of the other the ones that the OG, and by OG I mean the actual OG is the series of spin-offs that don't actually have it's not that they don't have any crossover stuff, because there's one OG Saga game that has like a character from like Xenosaga or something.
Oh.
And that's like the only guest character in it.
That's interesting.
But yeah, it makes me want to go back and play the Game Boy Advance and DS one, the other English released ones.
I think you can ask Kat Bailey of Act of the Blood God podcast, because she's pretty much the biggest diehard Super Robot Wars fans I know of.
It especially helps that they keep using those Banpresto original characters in Super Robot Wars 30, because then you learn about them and you're like, oh, what anime are they from? Oh, they're not from an anime, they're from a previous game. And then you like learn about the story or like where their mech comes from, what game they come from.
And do they have kind of like a library that goes into this detail? Like, say,
it doesn't go into like a ton of detail, but it has some. Like, it'll say what they're originally from and have like a short summary. But but of course, if you want to know more, you have to go to like look at various wikis and stuff. And even then, you might not even have all the information, because a lot of these games don't even have fan translations.
Yeah, that is true.
But there's still a lot of information out there, so it's pretty cool.
No, that's good. I'm happy you enjoyed it.
I'm excited to go back to play it again when I'm in the mood to. Because I still need to unlock the Ultraman characters, because they added those in, and unlock plenty of. I'm sure there are plenty of other characters I want to unlock, and plenty of other anime series I'm going to learn about from it.
But does Ultraman count as mecha?
Neither does Gridman, and Gridman's there.
I mean, Gridman can kind of grow to the size of a skyscraper. Well, that's Ultraman, yeah. On that note, yeah. It's
not even that Ultraman, though. It's the Ultraman from the Netflix anime series.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and that's not the first time, because remember, he was in Override.
Yeah.
Override 2. So I think it's just that Ultraman keeps being put in games, because I'm thinking either the rights are easier to
obtain,
get for him, or he's more internationally recognizable because of being on Netflix or something.
I also think was it Subaraya who has the rights to Ultraman?
Yeah, Subaraya has the rights to Ultraman and Gridman.
I think Subaraya wants to put Ultraman out there and just have him become a international brand. I think we've seen that over the years, growing and growing steadily.
Right, they're doing a very good job with
that. Question though, do you anticipate seeing any of the Attack of Titans in a Super Robot Wars game?
Any of the Titans from Attack on Titan in Super Robot Wars? Yeah. I don't think so. Okay. That doesn't really work.
Well, they are technically mechs.
Oh, they're flesh mechs?
They are flesh mechs. I think
I wouldn't want that. I think that's a step too far. But then again, Godzilla has been in Super Robot Wars game.
See, there's no real hard and fast rule for this.
It was a mobile game. But
yeah, I get
Godzilla was in it.
I get you. But that's mostly just
Ultraman and Gridman are in it. Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I think even for like Ultraman and Gridman, they were kind of stretching it. But Gridman is originally like inspired by Transformers, so you can kind of
see that lineage.
If you see his like original, like this one animation prior to SSS Gridman, his final form looks so much like Optimus Prime.
And you're like, gee, I wonder where they got that from.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's cool. I'm happy.
But yeah, Super Robot Wars 30 is a great game, and I think more people should
play it.
Look into it, because I feel like it was. I mean, I think it sold relatively well for like a niche title, but I still think more people should look into it.
Question though,
especially people who like anime and strategy games.
Should people then go for the premium edition, the premium sound edition? I mean. Or is the standard edition good enough? If
you want the actual music, you like get the premium sound edition. If you don't really care, the instrumental covers, they're not bad.
Okay.
They're still like I still think they did a good job on them. They don't sound like a cruddy MIDI version. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. They sound still pretty good quality. At least in my opinion.
I'm still waiting for a very deep discount on the premium sound edition because
that's fair.
That is an expensive baby.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
If I could have gotten the premium sound edition of that Kamen Rider game, I probably would have.
Yeah, I get you.
But again, the music in that, like their instrumental covers, they're not bad. They're just not the
full songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get you. Okay. I'll go ahead with my penultimate top game of 2021, which is, and I think this dovetails nicely with yours later, Monster Hunter Rise. Which is surprising because it's a Monster Hunter game, and I wouldn't say I'm not the biggest fan. I played Monster Hunter World previously and dabbled in the other games in the series, but it never really grabbed me. But Monster Hunter Rise was really good. It's so fun, and even if it was just me in single player messing about, it was still a lot of fun. And there's so much detail tucked away in this game, like the way the animals or the monsters behave in the environments, when they're wounded, when they're agitated, your palico, your palamute, the gear you can collect, the weapons you can obtain. It's also so satisfying. But at a certain point, it was just enough for me because the loop became ever present, and it just felt like, oh, for this higher rank, you're gonna do the same thing as the previous rank, and it's fine if you're into that, if you just want to go do that again. But I'm more of a story gamer first and gameplay gamer second. So once I was quote unquote done with the story, I was like, okay, I've had my fun. I'm done with this. But from a technical standpoint, a gameplay standpoint, a visual standpoint, this is such a good game. And
I wonder, with the Sunbreak DLC, I wonder if it's going to be like an Iceborne type thing where they improve on what they have. Because when Monster Hunter World came out, I was not very into it. But then when I tried Iceborne at Iceborne at the beginning of 2020, I was like, oh my god, they made it a lot better. I'm way more into this now.
I think that's a fair expectation. Like it's been a year plus now, I think.
Right.
And they must have learned some lessons and seen some things they want to tweak in the main game.
I'm trying to decide because I want to get the PC version, but I already have the Switch version and those amiibo, and I want to get the other amiibo. So I'm just like thinking like, I
mean, there must be some way to unlock those features without amiibo.
I would just like the amiibo because I have this collection of Monster Hunter amiibo now. So
that's
just keeps
fair.
going.
That's fair. Yeah, I don't know if I'll go back.
And maybe I can use them in something else later on, like in another game with amiibo functionality. Yeah. Who knows?
I don't know if I'll be going for the PC version or Sunbreak when it drops. I might, depending on how much time I have left.
Now, how far did you get? How far did you get after the credits roll? Because the credits roll at a really weird time.
Yeah, I don't remember because it was March of last year.
A while ago. Oh, yeah.
And my memory's not that good in my old age. And I don't have my Switch handy with me, so I can't really look. But I think I was at the rank you hit before highest rank. I'm not sure.
Okay, so you were probably past me.
Yeah, I probably.
Yeah, because I didn't get that far because it felt weird. Like those credits just.
Yeah, it kind of takes you out of the whole thing when you're feeling like, oh, I'm done with this, and then the game's like, nope. Which is an odd choice.
Again,
my
other problem when compared to previous Monster Hunter games is that it only introduced like a couple of the new monsters, and then the other ones are locked behind post game. And I'm like, why would you do that? I can understand doing like maybe one, like the strongest one, but like some of the other ones, it's like, no, you should have put that in the main.
Yeah, or like
campaign.
Advanced versions of already beaten monsters. That would have worked. But I guess they just wanted to give people enough of a post game to keep them coming back.
So yeah, I'm still debating on that, but that's kind of why it's not in my top 5. It probably would have been in my top 10, but it didn't make it into my top 5.
No, understandable.
But what did was Monster Hunter Stories 2: Wings of Ruin. Oh wow, what a surprise!
Which is your number 1.
Yeah, and again, I don't know what else I could say that I haven't said before. You know, the how they kept dropping new content after release, new monsters and new quests and stuff. How it improved upon stuff in the first game. It did leave out some stuff in the first. The one thing it left out from the first game, which actually turned out to be, funnily enough, was ironically a glitch before a certain patch in this game, was that usually when you put genes of a certain element to a monster that's not that element, it will change their color.
Oh.
But they took that out. But it was one of the most interesting features, I think, of the original Monster Hunter Stories. So I'm hoping that maybe if there's rumored to be more DLC in the future,
but
like with Sunbreak. I don't know if it's true, but
you know, it just being cosmetic, does it really factor that much into your enjoyment of things?
No, but it's just a neat feature that I'd like to see return.
Okay.
And I don't really understand why they took it out.
Yeah.
Because imagine if you can manipulate the colors of your Pokemon.
Yeah. Kind of have a bit more variety in the things. Yeah, I get it.
But yeah, it's a great gameplay loop. It's challenging, especially the post game stuff, which I still haven't completed. It's like people always say, oh, Pokemon Legends Arceus, it obviously takes inspiration from Monster Hunter. It's like, yes, but it also probably takes inspiration from Monster Hunter Stories.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad
thing. A lot of people overlooked Stories too. That's the one thing that's like, despite the fact that it sold well, that it sold so well, and that it had the most concurrent players for a JRPG on Steam back in July.
Didn't it sell like about 2.3 million?
I thought it was only 1 point something million. I thought.
Okay, you would know better than me.
Maybe an increase. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hang on. Let me see. Oh, hey, I've searched Monster Hunter Stories 2 sales, and it's my Parallax Media article. There we go. Nintendo and no, it just went past a week ago. It just went past 1.4 million.
Oh, okay. I might have been too enthusiastic in my estimation there.
Oh, let's get it to 2 million. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I still haven't played it, despite having played.
Do you plan on it?
I do, but I'm probably waiting on a quiet period where I don't have like a major.
Yeah, that's
release.
fair. No, that's fair.
Not to say that I don't think it's worth the time. It's just that with everything else, I just don't have all that much time and space to dedicate to big RPGs. And I have played the first one in anticipation of the second one on my phone, but it's a game on a phone, and you kind of don't have the finesse of the dedicated controls. So so that was kind of like a lesser experience. But yeah, I'm interested in Monster Hunter Stories too, and having heard you talk about it, having seen other people talk about it, it definitely piques my interest.
Yeah, again, it's really hard for me to not sound like a broken record at this point. Also, it's hard because I haven't played it in months. Not because it's bad, just because I've had other games to play.
Listen, you like what you like.
The fact that it's still like in my mind after, it came out in July, and the fact that it's still on my mind all the time.
I mean, that's
when it could have just been like when I could have just been like, oh yeah, it was good. It was more Monster Hunter stories. Oh, okay, whatever. I mean, but no, it really stuck with me. At least from a gameplay perspective. Story-wise, I didn't really care. But,
yeah,
I don't play Mon games for the story.
That's interesting. But
if they have a decent story, that's cool. But that's not a thing I really care about.
Yeah. No, but I was gonna say, isn't it being memorable and it being on your mind even after all this time a mark of it being a very good game / game of the year for you?
Yeah.
Because ultimately, that's what it's all about. Is
because despite the fact that I haven't played it for months, I'm still constantly thinking about it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if it leaves a strong enough impression that it blows all the other picks out of the water, then that's just it. That's a good thing. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. We have had your number one. And then that leads us to Jason's patented gold and silver awards, which I came up at the in the pre-show, which is just to say what are my number 1 and 2 games of the year. Why gold and silver, or why my number 1 and 2 games of the year? It's because even though I played a lot of games and I enjoyed a lot of them, these two stuck out for the reasons one I already have mentioned, which is Tales of Arise being my second place, my silver award, and the reason I will go into my number 1 pick, which you will hear in a bit. And all those combined make them my number 1 and 2. They are just so clear ahead of everything else that I have experienced that these two will be the thing I measure other games against. So, my number 1 game, my golden game of 2021 is Lost Judgment, which is a very big surprise to me because as I was playing it, I was thinking, oh, this isn't as fun as the first one. Oh, they nerfed this system and they took out this system, and okay, now the loop is kind of ruined. And if you look at the structure, it's kind of similar to the first one, but by the end of it, when I was finished with the story, I was like, oh my god, this is a good game. This is a good story. this moves me from within. I'm not saying it's Hemingway or by any stretch of the imagination or Shakespeare, but the thing RGG Studios does with their stories is they commit to whatever thing they want to tell, be it being displaced due to your age, not having a job, or being kicked out of your family, or do the ends truly justify the means? And if they do, what does that have as a consequence? They really commit to that, and they don't really throw in all those plot twists and flourishes that say Tales of Arise does in the second half that kind of devalues the overall story. They just steadily build on top of what came before and just deliver a very, very solid story. And Lost Judgment grabbed me in that respect. And there was a moment I tweeted out about it that it was jaw-dropping and heartbreaking, and I don't want to spoil it because it's very pivotal to what happens, and it's kind of the turning point of the game.
So, there was some stuff that you said before bothered you in the game. Was the rest of the game good enough to kind of just not forget about that, but kind of just make it so that wasn't
Yeah, it's
you weren't thinking about that as much?
when I compared it to the first Judgment, which I played last year on Xbox, and Lost Judgment on PS5. When I played the first Judgment, I was taken aback because the way they recontextualized the main Yakuza games, it's their loop in this game. It's very fun and engaging, and then on top of that, a very good, well-paced story, and very very big crowd-pleasing moments. It just felt like such a good package. And in this game, it kind of feels like A, they either thought, oh, we did that too much, so let's scale it back, or B, people complained about this, so let's scale it back. But in the end, that kind of hurt the game's flow, because in the main game, you are in Kamurocho, and when you go about town and fight against enemies, you will lose a bit of health, and that would lead you to either use a health pack or health item, or go into one of the restaurants. And if you go into one of the restaurants, it ups your overall ranking in the game, and it helps unlock other stuff. So it's kind of like this social system that you have in games like Persona or whatever, and that one thing you do in the game feedbacks into another thing into the game, and that feeds back into the first thing, and that's just a very satisfying loop. And in this game, Lost Judgment, that they just took it all out, and instead of going to restaurants to refill your health, which you still can do, you can get a literal takeout. So instead of dining into, say, KFC, you get your 2-piece combo to go. It's such a weird thing, but yeah, I guess someone complained loud enough to have them scale it back. And then there are things like drinking alcohol that would give you added effects in the first game. They just kind of made it non-essential here. It still exists, but you don't have to bother with it. Same with smoking, same with dating. It's kind of, they stripped all of the flavor out of, well, not all of the flavor. Let's say there is a base flavor, they just stripped out all the spice. Fan service, if you will. And yeah, that definitely hurts this game. So where the first Judgment was a solid 8.5, this game is a solid 7.5 to 8. But it's a very, very solid 7.5 to 8. And once you go through that story, there's nothing like it. There are highs and there are very low lows where you just feel it in your gut, and it's such an amazing tale. I just can't I can't stop thinking about it, of how they presented it. And
yeah,
as you mentioned, like this game just sticks with you and it leaves an impression, and this is what this does.
Yeah, and this is more. It's interesting because yours is more for the story.
Yeah,
and mine was more for the gameplay loop.
Yeah, exactly. So, in Lost Judgment, I'll just give a brief synopsis. It's about this detective from Kamurocho, Tak from the Yagami detective agency, with his buddy Kaito, Sugiura, and I forgot the other one. I'm sorry. It's been quite a while, but yeah, mate, it's gonna bother me. So I'm gonna look it up real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
What is his name? Okay. Okay. Okay, I have to look up on a different site. Lost Judgment, voice actors. Tsukumo. Yeah, that's it. Tsukumo and Higashi, and all the usual characters from the first game are back. Steve Blum actually voices one of the characters. So I think that would pique your interest.
He was also in No, he was in the first one. Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. He's in the first one. Yeah, he's definitely in the first one. His voice kind of sounds different in this one, but maybe he's just a bit more relaxed in his role. But yeah, it's such a good game. I can't. So it's about this group of detectives that have to investigate two cases, which at first glance don't seem connected at all. The first one is where a middle-aged police officer gropes a woman on one of the trains in Tokyo,
which is a huge issue. I don't know about police officers, but just
in general, it's a huge issue. Yes, yeah. And then during his hearing, he mentions that like in the next city over, a body will be discovered, a body of so and so, and with all the details. And then that stuns everyone, because how does this guy that just got convicted of being a groper or a sexual assault perpetrator know about a murder that happened miles away? And that just spirals into plot twists and groups that have hidden motives and all the good stuff. And the way that unravels it, I think I mentioned it when we talked about the first game, where it feels like as you're playing the game, they're tightly winding it up all the way until the last 2 or 3 chapters, and then they let it loose, and then explosions happen, quite literally in some cases. And yeah, it's such a wild ride, and I can't say enough good stuff about the story, and it really moved me, and really a thing happens and I was just heartbroken, and it took me a while to get over it. I'll tell you that. And yeah, its main theme of justice by any measure, the ends justify the means, and who becomes collateral when that happens. It's just so resonant, and it's such an important story, because if you had the option to take revenge, would you care about what destruction you'd leave in your wake, or would you just carry on until you were stopped by someone or something? It's so good, so good, and I'm eager to see what they do next. But I just hope they kind of don't forget their core gameplay loop, or maybe enhance it or modify it, that it doesn't become an afterthought. But yeah, that's my game of the year. That's my golden game of 2021.
Sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's you might not like it as much because it's the brawler combat from the Yakuza games 1 through 6.
Right.
So yeah, maybe not do that. Maybe play it on easy and just coast through it and get through the story if that's what you like.
Yeah, if I ever play it.
Yeah. But if you do play Lost Judgment, I would advise playing the first game, Judgment, because it having that familiarity helps a lot. There aren't necessarily big plot points that flow into from the first game into this one, but it helps a lot knowing who these characters are and how their relationship has been built over the course of the first game. So yeah, that's my take.
Sorry, I just didn't have much to say. About that.
It's fine.
This actually was a little shorter, like a perfect length podcast.
Yeah.
I'm glad I chose 5 and 5. Again, we weren't going like super in depth for each game, but
Yeah.
we didn't really need to because we had talked about most of them before. Anyway,
That's true.
Yeah. So in like around a month, we'll have a podcast on Pokemon Legends Arceus. So how we're gonna try to do things is we're going to do things remember, we're a small podcast. We don't get review codes for big games. We play like the same way that most people do.
On our own dime.
Yeah, on our own time. Not that we have plenty of colleagues that play on their own time too, but and again, it's hard to be able to play everything. So we're just picking and choosing usually one game per month. Again, not the March podcast, but the April podcast is going to be weird because in March, Square Enix has 4 different games coming out.
Yeah, we'll see which one we can get to.
Yeah. It's either going to be... I don't think we're going to really talk about Chocobo GP all that much. I think it's either going to be Triangle Strategy or Stranger of Paradise.
I think you would probably take on... well, no. I think you're the tactics person these days, so you.
I'm gonna do both, but it might be hard to. It might kind of be hard to play because, Stranger of Paradise. Excuse me. Right after Elden Ring.
Oh no! Oh no! What have they done?
But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
we could always do a double thing where we talk about Elden Ring and Triangle Strategy, and maybe have a guest to help us out with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Or something. But we're not going to worry about that for a while.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
But again, next episode we'll talk all about Pokemon Legends Arceus. I'm excited for that. There's plenty of coverage you can check out. There's an article I put up recently. It is ranking all the appearances of the technology enthusiast in the Pokemon series. He does not have an ancestor in Pokemon Legends Arceus, I'm sorry to say.
Interesting stuff.
But yeah, go check that out. That's your recommended content for this month. Only one thing.
Yeah.
Oh, and the Yu-Gi-Oh thing. The Master Duel versus Rush Duel.
Yeah.
Go check that out if you have interest in those games.
But having that said, thank you for listening.
Yep.
It's fun to be back.
Yeah. Sorry that if the new format is just like so different from the original, but we figured this might be a little more accessible to people too.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
Everyone and their mother has a podcast these days, so
yeah.
We're gonna have to do everything we can to stand out.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine. We don't have to have the biggest audience ever. I just like talking about video games and anime and such.
Yeah, I get it. But yeah, thank you for listening.
Yeah.
We are happy to be back. Look out.
Yeah, as we always say, stay healthy, get a booster, get vaccinated, and get a booster if you are eligible, because I know there's people who still haven't. Please continue to wear a mask and wash your hands and such. Mm-hmm. Take a shower.
Yeah,
wear deodorant.
Be safe, be happy, and we'll see you next time.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Matane.